Good afternoon, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. I want to get on today and talk about an unbeatable presumption, guys. And this is what I've been working for 6 years now. It's why I quit signing. I realized that every time I signed a document, it was a public document, and it placed a public record. I didn't know about this presumption until just recently, but I knew the basis of the presumption was finding oneself as establishing their own privacy. And this they recognize in their own laws. They call it a private foundation, nothing else. And we're going to talk about that. But to begin with, I want to talk about this Zoom. I did the PayPal videos here recently because I had an issue with PayPal wanting to accept a concept of... Hold on, I got to settle the dog now. So I was trying to get PayPal to understand the concept that I don't have the qualifications of licensing. And if I don't have the qualifications of licensing, I can't take on a liability. And yet they turn around, and because of the way their system works and their assumptions, they put a liability on me or on my account as if though there's some kind of liability they can place there when they can't. So what they did was they reported taxable income to the IRS, and that's an unlawful communication. They did not have my consent to place anything into a public record from their private. See, banking is a privy thing too. Just like a doctor and client privy, a lawyer, client privy. See, when you're contracting with somebody, there's privity. They're not supposed to be contacting somebody else outside of that contract and reporting shit to them. So we're going to get into that. But in this Zoom thing today, I'm trying to get these guys to understand. They finally escalated me to the tax department, of course. Again, the same kind of issue with PayPal. Nobody's comprehending anything. But the basic simple principle is, as a private foundation established as a faith-based union and not able to license, I'm still able to give. So what I offer is a contribution to Zoom in the amount of a 1-year subscription in exchange for a contribution of an account through public accommodation, but remaining privy and without liability and not subject to their judicial hold harmless indemnification agreement, because as a private foundation, I don't put liabilities on other people. I forgive. That is my duty, is to love and forgive. And so I expect that in exchange. If I can't get that in exchange, I cannot go any further with that entity. And this is where they're caught. They're stuck. Because there's already a presumption that you can't enter anything into the record for them if they're already recognized as a private foundation. And not only are they recognized as a private foundation, they're presumed already to be a private foundation. So let's look at it. This is the email exchange with Zoom, and my ticket number and the gal I spoke to on the phone. And when I spoke to her on the phone, what I was trying to get through to her is I needed a private contact somewhere, an immediate or direct contact with somebody through email rather than their service department. And she said, okay, she'd send me an email. She sent me the email, but it comes from the service department, from support. And it says, thanks for contacting Zoom Billing. Kindly send us here a copy of your tax-exempt certificate. That would mean that I would have to inform the IRS as a tax-exempt organization. It is a very specific term. It means that once a private foundation has established itself with a board of directors, a CEO, a CFO, and all of those other things like a corporate entity, then it is organized. And through the board of directors, it can then hire an attorney and file suits and be sued in those courts. It's a tax venue for corporate entities, period. I am not capable of being licensed. I am not able to be sued in the courts, and I am not able to sue anybody in those courts. I cannot, as a foundation of faith, hold liability against anybody because my scriptures, which I use as my holy writs, tell me, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread as we work together in peace and love and harmony, forgiving each other our debts, and leading not each other into temptation, but delivering each other from evil. For that is the providence of our Father's grace in heaven. The power, the glory of the use of his words forever, because in beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Nothing else. You want to certify anything, certify that. Public Law 97-280. And then he sent me another one later on. Thanks for contacting Zoom Billing. Kindly send us here a copy of your tax-exempt certificate in order for us to escalate it to our tax team. They want to say they have to have that certificate first. Now, if the support team is saying they need the tax certificate, are they the tax team? See, this is why I read. This is why I try my best to comprehend the order of things in order for us to escalate it to our tax team. Excuse me. It's a tax issue. It should be escalated to the tax team automatically. You are not competent unless you are part of the tax team to require somebody else to provide you a tax-exempt certificate. So, I sent him a notice referencing the phone conversation with Shemmer on 3/4/2022. Greetings. Thank you for this opportunity to help prevent further errors in our records, or in your records. As we discussed, Zoom is asking for proof that the Keith Orland Little FBU is a private foundation. As a private foundation not subject to public law, I wish to subscribe, and that's in quotes because it can be changed. I want to be able to put in the record-like terms. Donate without licensure in equal exchange of a donation of the account without licensure. That's all I want to do there by putting those quotes in there. To a Zoom platform for educational purposes only, in teaching the word of our Father which art in heaven. Again, my duty under Jeremiah 1:5. Before I was formed in the belly, he knew me. In the beginning was the Word, and that's where he put the Word was on my heart. Before I was cast from the womb, that Word was already printed on my heart because my heart had already developed in the prenatal stages. This is very important. We're talking about a fetus here, and we're going to see that at the end. So, however, when attempting to do so online, the keys only allow for licensure, of which I do not qualify for as a commercial entity. This is a matter that could lead to harm and injury later if that presumption is not clarified first. As we spoke in our conversation, On the phone, I have the same issue with many corporate entities. In the legal course of business, the private foundation is presumed, and the public foundation is a course of record keeping for general public purposes. Supporting this is 26 U.S. Code Section 1.508-1, notices, which states, in general, except as provided in subparagraph 7 of this paragraph, any organization. Like I said, once you've organized and you've got a board of directors, and you can hire an attorney with the CFO and CEO making corporate decisions with that board to determine what is best for them, only then can you be sued and sue in those courts by use of an attorney. Anyone less is incompetent. Even if you hire an attorney, they can't sue in those courts on your behalf because you are not suable. What they're suing is the record. Okay, including an organization in existence. See, it's got to be organized. A private foundation is presumed, which is described in Section 501c3. So you have to have applied for that section, and which does not notify the commissioner within the time, in the manner prescribed in subparagraph 2 that it is not a private foundation, will be presumed to be a private foundation, and which does not notify. So if I did not notify them that I'm a private foundation, they already presume I'm a private foundation. And when PayPal sent the notification that I was collecting taxes and had earned income of $600 or more based on that tax schedule, they made a false claim, and they went outside of our contract to do so, and in doing so, they also used a Social Security number, which is a beneficiary record that is in custody of the Social Security. So they effectually made a claim against the Social Security Administration. Dirty little boys. They couldn't have made it against me, the Keith Orland Little Faith-Based Union. They got it on their own site. Keith Orland Little Faith-Based Union. When you hit PayPal to donate to me, look at the header. It says Keith Orland Little FBU. It does not say Keith Orland Little with the Social Security number. It's got its own private routing number. The Keith Orland Little Faith-Based Union is not organized, but rather in development stages as a private foundation based in union of faith. Language is specific. Law is specific. Language is law. You make your law by constructing your language. One can copy paste the following number into their search engine and see that it is in fact a private routing number for transits throughout the entire territory of the Union. This is directly related to Article 1 of the Constitution of the Universal Postal Union. That routing number, the first set of numbers, is an epoch number, and if you punch that number into an epoch clock, it will tell you the day and time that it was entered. It will tell you when this faith-based union was created on the digital clock and placed on the digital record. The UPN is a universal public notice. It's the first. If I happen to redo it, I can put 1.2. If I redo the whole thing, if I amend it, I would put 1.2. If I redo the whole thing, it would be the second one. So it would be a rewriting or an amendment. Would determine how you would change that number. And then 2020 and then 8 is the month of August 2020, which will correlate with that time. As a caveat, I am only using the Yahoo email address with a .com domain extension as a means of arbitration and not as a matter of entering into contracts. See, arbitration is had first before you enter into contracts, and it plays throughout the contract. It is arbitration. There is no enforcement in contract. There is only breach and accusation, and then you can file a suit in court based on the evidence of the breach. Otherwise, if you're not placing the evidence of the breach on the record, then there is no breach. And I'm telling you, folks, you don't belong in that record. And that's what they're using against you. Again, the name and number identify the record. This is 20 CFR 422.103. Social Security numbers. The Social Security Administration, SSA, maintains a record of the earnings reported for each individual assigned a Social Security number. The individual's name and Social Security number identify the record. It does not identify the individual. The individual's name identifies the individual. The individual's name and number identify the record. The record is held by the Social Security Administration. You, as the individual, are the card holder authorized to sign, holding no liability, because you are not the holder of the record. You are a holder of the instrument. This is English language, plain writing, folks. These people in these offices, in all these political offices, these people couldn't possibly have passed third grade. And if they did, it only tells you that these people are in office simply because it's a popularity vote and not because of any kind of knowledge, wisdom, experience, or anything. They're nothing but dicks. People in government servitude cannot comprehend normal thinking standards. Write that down, folks. People in government servitude cannot understand normal thinking standards. That's an acronym. Take the first letter of each word and understand, if you're providing a public service by filling out their public papers, then you don't understand the normal thinking standards. You yourself don't understand the normal thinking standards. Who can be assigned a Social Security number? Persons. Corporate persons. Once you organize and become a corporate person, then you can get a Social Security number as a beneficiary. You can get an EIN number as an employer. You can get a TIN as an individual, or you can get an Either way, you're still part of that system by reporting, and you are claiming you means an individual who owes a debt to the United States within the scope of this subpart. What is this subpart? 20 CFR is an employee. Employee benefits. If you employ the public record, you become an employee. You become service to the public record. Therefore, you are a public servant. Understand and comprehend language. Okay, so let's go back to it. Okay, that's the end of my email. And notice, folks, it says reverently, Chaplain Keith. If they don't understand that it's the Keith Orland Little faith-based union, and I ain't going to sign as Keith Orland Little, because I ain't Keith Orland Little, and neither am the Keith Orland Little faith-based union, and neither am I going to sign. You're never going to get a signature from me, folks. Never. Not in a contract capacity. And what we're talking about is the Section 51 to 70 of the Republic Act, number 10963, of the Tax Reform for Acceleration in Inclusion. Tax Reform for Acceleration in Inclusion. Now remember, I spoke earlier about the fetus, and we're talking about prenatal care. And when you go to the doctor and you start including that record, that prenatal care, because there's a fetus in your womb, and then when you go to register at the hospital to give birth, you sign up for a spell of illness. For that, anytime you sign up for an inpatient hospital treatment, you're signing up for a spell of illness. 42 USC 1395X definitions. The first definition listed. Read it. Tax Reform for Acceleration in Inclusion Act. Folks, they are training you in law. They are training you in their tax law because you are including yourself. And they're going to speed everything up for you. That's what a career is. Career means run fast. Speed up. Section 173 to Section 201 of the National Internal Revenue Code. National Internal Revenue Code, and it says, what are the documents, papers not subject to documentary stamp tax? Under Section 9 of the Revenue Regulations, number 13-2004, the following documents and papers are not subject to the documentary stamp tax. Policies of insurance and annuities made or granted by a fraternal or beneficiary society, order, association, or cooperative company operated on the lodge system. I went into court one day. Somebody tried to pose a credit collection against my companion, so I walked in with her and let their trustee know I was her trustee, and they didn't have a fucking say about it. I wanted validation of the fucking debt. Well, we'll have to go and talk to the judge. Okay. So we're going to the judge, and I tell him the same thing. I'm her companion in life. I'm her trustee, and she wants me here. Is that correct? Yes. He then turned around and tried to present that I might be practicing law without a license. So I said, well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you go ahead and subpoena the licensing commissioner from the state? And matter of fact, I'll let you pick any state. Matter of fact, why don't you pull them in from all 50 states and see if any one of them has ever registered a license to practice law in their lodge system, their log book, the commissioner's log book. That's a hospital. If there's a commissioner's log book, you'd like to see that. You'd like to see if baby boy Little was put in that commissioner's log book, known as the Book of Life, based upon a birth registration. These people are in a lot of trouble if you know the truth, folks. So let's continue on. So now that we know their lodge system is a beneficiary system in a society for them, or local cooperation plan, that's your municipality. That's where everything's lodged at the local county, and organized and conducted solely for the members thereof, for the exclusive benefit of each member, and not for profit. Not subject to a documentary stamp tax. Well, if it's not subject to a documentary tax stamp, and I have my own lodge system, who the fuck is you to say you have access to my lodge system? You don't. It's their lodge system, operated on the lodge system or local cooperation plan, and organized and conducted solely for the members thereof, for the exclusive benefit of each member. So if you take upon that social, you're deemed to be part of the IRS train. They are training you in tax law. They are not going to train you in anything else in those public schools, people. Comprehend this. Okay, let's talk about that fetus. The law, French phase, in ventre sa mère, in its mother's womb, refers to a fetus in utero. It is commonly used in legal English. Legal English. As an unborn fetus, which is thus still in ventre sa mère, may be accepted to be a beneficiary for some purposes, provided it is subsequently born alive. See, your prenatal care, folks, is already the establishment of a beneficiary record through the doctor's records. Does that sound like a privy? Does that sound like they included a third party into a privy contract? Did you do that? Did you enter that documentation in there? Did the doctor enter it into the public record? I mean, where is the privy here? If it's being disseminated publicly in their lodge system, which is known as their public record, which has elements of confidentiality, fidelity, fide. Watch this, folks. In medical jurisprudence, just like it says in medical jurisprudence, its legal definition, an unborn child. Not an unborn animal, an unborn child. That is a legal term. Okay? Well, let's see what we can find here. I know I got it. We'll just have to search it manually. Give me a minute here, folks. Fictitious person. A person who, though named as payee in a check, has no right to it or its proceeds because the drawer of it so intended. Telling you the drawer is not the person. Fictitious plaintiff. A person appearing in the writ or record as the plaintiff in a suit. but who in reality does not exist. Why are you fighting something that does not exist? Or who is ignorant of the suit and of the use of his name in it? See, the state of Iowa, there's no other drawer for the person. Who drew the state of Iowa? No one will step up and say, I am the state of Iowa, and I drew the state of Iowa. Mom won't step up and say, well, I drew the state of Iowa, but she'll certainly stand up and say, I drew Keith Orland Little. She was the creator. She was the drawer of that person, not the state. The state created a document that presented false assumptions that were later on then presumed by the people by their obvious entering of the record for further clarification that it was in fact true, when it's not. It's all fiction. Fictitious promise. See, promise. Promise is a fiction. They're synonymous. You don't make promises, people. Fide commissary. Remember I talked about that fidelity agreement with the post office. They're the Postal Regulatory Commission. They're the commissary. They're the judicial commissary. They're the ones you have to have a fidelity bond with. A term derived from the Latin and occasionally used by writers on equity jurisprudence as a substitute for the French law term sedeke trust. Oops. Now, if you want to keep up with the sedeke trust of the United States and keep trying to access TDA and all that and be a secure party creditor, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. You're entering into a public record instead of creating your own fidelity bond with the Postal Service, letting them know everyone is to shut the fuck up. Ain't none of your business. It's not a commercial venue. WordWiseWarrior.art. That is a postal road and route. It is a known peace agreement. And it is judicially regulated by the Universal Postal Union. Period. Fidelitas. Fealty. Fidelity. See. Fealty. One of our friends had a problem with some jackass trying to tell her she didn't know what it meant. Trying to claim there's some kind of difference. Fealty and fidelity are not the same thing. The fuck they aren't. These attorneys don't know a goddamn fucking thing. They pose presumptions and nothing else, and they hope you will run with it. They hope you will make a career of it. They hope you will be like me and have 93 cases. They hope you will run in and out of those courts every 3, 4, 6 months. I am a survivor. Not because of these arms, but because of my arm moral bearing. You ain't my daddy. I've always known this. You ain't my daddy. Hallelujah. So let's get on with it. When they pose that you're the person, the surety's right to settle. Settlements. The surety shall have right to adjust, settle, or compromise any claim, unless the contractor and the indemnitors shall request the surety to litigate such claim or demand, or to appeal from such judgment, and shall deposit with the surety at the time of such request cash or collateral satisfactory to the surety in kind and amount. This is a contract term. When you step in to be surety for the indemnitor, that's a contract, and he's supposed to pay you up front. That's what these people are talking about with the fee schedule. If you want to step in as surety, go ahead. Put that fee schedule in. But if you're going to do that, you can't sit there and claim to be in peace and coming in equity, because you just entered into a contract trying to pose that you're going to hold somebody liable if they fail you. And to be used in paying judgment or judgments rendered or that may be rendered with interests, costs, expenses, and attorney's fees. Those fees for turning over the data elements in lieu of the indemnitor. You have the right to collect fees for turning things over. That is what subrogation is all about, including those of the surety. Okay? And again, I'll post all these links so you can read further. And when it comes to our communications and trying to communicate this stuff to these people, like I said, these attorneys are trying to place a presumption. And this is Section 230 of the Title 47 United States Code, enacted as part of the United States Communications Decency Act, that generally provides immunity for website platforms with respect to third-party content. As its core, Section 230C1 provides immunity from liability for providers and users of an interactive computer service who publish information provided by third-party users. No provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider. You cannot, as a person, corporate entity, pose that the drawer said something that he never said. You are not the fucking storyteller, bitches. Get it right. Universal Postal Union, number 8844. Constitution of the Universal Postal Union with final protocols and annexes, and general regulations of the Universal Postal Union with final protocol, signed at Vienna on July 10th, 1964. This is why I talk about the Geneva Conventions and the Vienna Conventions. These are both the conventions that they hold under the law of peace and the Treaty of Berne and the Law of Nations. Okay, and both of those are indentured through the Universal Postal Union. Constitution of the Universal Postal Union, signed at Vienna, July 10th, 1964. Constitution of Universal Postal Union Preamble, with a view to developing communications between people by the efficient operation of the postal services, not your corporate policy, not your corporate entity, not your this, not your that, but the efficient operation of the postal services, you dumb motherfuckers. And to contributing to the attainment of the noble aims of international collaboration in the cultural, social, and economic fields, not your fucking presumed agricultural personal animals as chattel. The plenipotentiaries of the governments of the contracting countries have, subject to ratification, adopted this Constitution. I'm telling you, folks, it's all about adoption. You don't have to make it law. You adopt it so you can amend it if it need to be corrected. So, let's take a look at the first article. Section 1. organic, not organized, organic provisions. Chapter 1, general. Article. My site is a .art, and it posts articles. And those articles pass through the mail system. They transit through the mail system. Scope and objective of the Union. The countries adopting the this Constitution comprise, under the title of the Universal Postal Union, a single postal territory for the reciprocal exchange of letter post items, mail, and articles. Freedom of transit is guaranteed throughout the entire territory of the Union. PayPal posed a debt through their territory to the IRS that I was not using freedom of transit, that I was in fact entered into commerce and collecting taxes. See, as a consumer on that kind of deal, taxable income means that I had already collected money from somebody else that I collected taxes on for the IRS, because I already have a contract with the IRS. I already have a cooperative agreement through the area-wide service agreement, a military agreement, to collect revenue from the volunteer prisoners of war. I recognize I am not a prisoner of your war or to combat. I am not in your war. Your law of nations does not apply. Treaty of Berne does. Again, synonymous with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. That's my peace treaty. So let's go on. OCR, this is Health and Human Services. That's your Social Security contract, people, whether it's an insurance or an annuity. Okay? Discrimination on the basis of age, race, color, national origin. Prohibits discrimination on the basis, assistance, disability, or religion in projects for assistance in transition from homelessness. Freedom of transit. They all recognize it. You merely need how to express all of this stuff. Oh, no. There we go. Thought I lost the page. So in all of their wise judgments, folks, long before there was a king of Israel, Judges 21:25. In those days there was no king in Israel. Every man did that which was right in his own eyes. This is what we've fallen away from, people. People no longer do what's right in their own eyes. They're just doing their job. Frequently asked questions. Numerical identification Numadent files. Record group 47, December 17, 2018. Let me see here. 3. Oops. What did I do? There we go. What Numinate file has the National Archives received? In 2013, the Social Security Administration transferred the first set of Numinate files to the National Archives. Remember, I spoke not too long about the Library of Congress and the National Archives, and that Social Security is part of a record that's entered into the National Archives. Okay? We don't belong in those National Archives as prophets unto the nations. When we take upon that conference of a nationality, however, we give that prophet up and we become a person, and it entered into the National Archives. Okay? And it tells us the Social Security Administration transferred the first set of Numinate files to the National Archives. The first set contained records of individuals with a verified death between 1936 and 2007, or who would have been over 110 years old by December 31st, 2007. There are 3 types of entries in Numadent: application SS5, claim, and death entries. So what we see here is there's an application SS5 set up to establish an archive to be entered into the national records. Upon that record that's being established, they are claiming various different things, that it's operating as an organization. Under the age of majority thing, when you start getting a license and stuff, you're operating as the surety. And as the surety, you're claiming that it's an organized entity, corporate entity. And that record is a presumption. It's not organized fully yet. You don't have a board of directors, all of this. And so until you're able to comprehend this and come to the age of majority at 18 and collapse the trust, either way, whether you establish yourself privately with your own board of directors, you still need to collapse that public trust and establish your own private trust under that board of directors. And so now they're already collecting death entries on that Numinate record that weren't corrected because of these various different errors. So their record is already promulgated as errors, probably 98%. 98% of the people pay taxes voluntarily. I'm assuming 98% of the people signed up that SS5 voluntarily and registered their children voluntarily. I'm assuming. So we have 2013, the transfer for the period of 1936 to 2007 consisted of 49,459,293 death records, 72,182,729 applications. I wish I had these for viewers. 25,230,486 for claim record entries. Where do you think all those claims are being made? They're being made by the public servants claiming against the record and holding you as the surety, ruining your foundation, ruining your spirituality, instead of educating you through decent communications. They trained you in their tax laws through their public education. So let's look at the next one. Remember that numerical identification system. This is 28 CFR. This is the judicial element again, back to the postal regulatory system. Participation in the interstate identification index system. 20.36 of 28 CFR, participation in the interstate identification index system in order to acquire and retain direct access to the 3 system, III, each control terminal agency. Control terminal agency is the Postal Service. It is a postal road and route. Again, it's routing the transits throughout its system. They're transit trains. And Federal Service Coordinator shall execute a criminal justice investigation search, user agreement, or its functional equivalent. Functional equivalent with the Assistant Director in charge of the CJIS Division, FBI. Federal Bureau of Investigations, an extension of the Bureau of Vital Information, which is provided by the birth registration, to abide by all present rules, policies, and procedures of the NCIC, National Criminal Investigation, whatever, I can't remember exactly what it is, NCIC, as well as any rules, policies, and procedures hereinafter recommended. I'm sorry. I can't go with that, folks. Does that tell you how much authority they have, folks? Can they recommend any more rules, policies, and procedures other than what is already stated by the CJIS Advisory Policy Board and adopted by the FBI Director? See, there's that adopted, isn't it? See, can he adopt anything less than freedom of transit is guaranteed throughout the entire territory of the Union? See, I don't give a flying fuck what the FBI says, what the Attorney General says, what the CJIS says, the JAG. I don't care what any of them says. What is done is what ought be done. How's that for your measurement of ought in the Navy? Entry or updating of criminal history record information. Entry of a criminal history record information was done at birth. It was placed in the Bureau. In the Bureau is known as drawers. If you look at your dresser, they placed an address in one of those drawers. No one can derive an advantage from his own wrong. I don't care whether you believe you're right. If you're wrong, you are wrong. PayPal had no right nor privilege to place my information on the IRS record. They had no right to draw. Okay? That person cannot draw anything. The above maxim is derived from the general principle of good faith. It means that one party may not avail itself of the fact that the other party has not fulfilled a contractual obligation or has not had a recourse to some means of redress. If the former party has, by some illegal act, prevented the latter from fulfilling the obligation in question or having recourse to that redress. PayPal has forced me to get involved in notices. PayPal has forced me to redress their record in error. They are saying that the Keith Orland Little faith-based union is already recognized by the IRS. But the IRS has no record of the Keith Orland Little faith-based union. And under B of 26 CFR 1.508-1 notices, as we saw in the email I showed them earlier, the same thing. It was just a copy-paste. Will be presumed to be a private foundation. When we read number 2, it says, except as provided in subparagraph 7 again of this paragraph, an organization, again they're referring to an organization, saying the organization must file the notice described in section 508B to be recognized rather as a private foundation and not a 501c3. So if you've already filed as a 501c3, you can say, hey, I made a mistake. I'm not fully established as an organization. I cannot hire an attorney because I don't have a board of directors. So I'm sending you notice to redo or redress the record to reflect that I'm a private foundation. And nothing need to be attained until I give further notice of that ability to qualify as an organization under 501c3. Very specific language, people. There is an order to it. And if they are not following the order, then they can't say you're subject to it. And then say, well, forget about number 1, you're already an organization. No, you have to prove that I do in fact have a board of directors. Without that, the entire record is false. Period. There's no way somebody can step in as surety as a contracting party if they cannot hire a board of directors themselves. This is an impossibility, folks. Period. So let's go on to the next one. I got one more, I think. Oh, no, we've already been over that one. Okay. So, punch in W and it automatically comes up as wordwisewarrior.art. Just like in the email, you can copy paste the number And the other day I copy pasted it, and more than just my page came up, it gave me notifications on who was responding to my Facebook page. Yeah, and it would be because I think people responded to this on my Facebook page. Private foundation. So then once you paste that number in, it brings you to this page, and then you can click on my Facebook link here to that post, or you can go down to the faith-based union and click on the union, and it takes you to my public notice page. And this is where my faith-based union is established. There's the absolute number, absolute now time security note, and it's expressed as the Keith Orland Little Faith-Based Union, a private member association, an expression of my living will. My mission statement, the same thing. It's like wording. It's my mission statement, to do the good works of our Father which art in heaven and profitable unto men. And that's the sigil that I use to represent my temple, as opposed and kind of in like form as to the one they wish me to provide for them in their military fashion under the law of nations, providing that this is in fact a temple. So I provide one for the law of peace, or for the law of nations, under their rules of land warfare, letting their warriors know that this is a peaceful place, a temple. And then I've got mine for the Treaty of Berne, so everybody knows that the peaceful warriors are present and available. And in that statement, I let everybody know, any who wish to be of this natural union will be under the full armor of protection for dissemination of any details of this union by the whole union as one. Sorry about that, folks. The whole union as one. That's what a union is. So you need to clarify that you adopt that Constitution of the Universal Postal Union and ratify Article 1 and guarantee freedom of transit throughout the entire territory of the Union, both coming and going. So when like I made my presentment to Zoom, I want to get one of their 1-year accounts so I can do these Zooms for more than just 40 minutes. But they want me to give them $100 and some through this credit system that's going to come through as U.S. dollars, and that incorporates a licensure that I'm not qualified to do. That means I have to be qualified also to hire an attorney if I somehow manage to breach that contract. If I breach that contract and can't hire an attorney, then I breached the contract before I even entered it because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. That's why in my email I clarified that. I can't enter into the contract. I can't hold liability. I insist on the freedom of transit. So what I offered was, tell you what, I do have access freely of the amount that you want for your Zoom subscription. I'm glad to donate that to Zoom if Zoom is accordingly willing to grant a donation in return of a 1-year account holding no liability. It's the same thing as a contract having hold harmless indemnification agreement. Most every contract is implied to have a hold harmless indemnification agreement. But yet they fail that by saying that you have an attorney. This is what tells us that they're all lunatics. How can you enforce something that's arbitration and then require an attorney for a breach of contract if it's still supposed to be an arbitration? Somebody made a mistake and let them go back and fix their mistake. That's what equity is. Being able to go back and correct the SS5. Being able to go back and correct the birth record. That's equity. You cannot keep holding people liable to something that's false. This is reason and logic, folks. And in the meantime, Remember, if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. I've been on here a while, one of my longer videos here, and so I'm going to cut it down. Like I said, I'll post all these links. Do your research, and I assure you, people, I know I am on the right path. People ask me, Keith, why do you choose such a hard path? It's the only one I see. I am looking for nothing but that which is true, and it's synonymous throughout all of their jurisdictions, and I hope you see how I'm pointing that out. HUD, they're the relocation assistants. They're the ones that provide the insurance on the original construction contracts that cover all lands. And they have a contract with BLM and the military and the Postal Service. They're all corporate entities involved in area-wide service agreements for environmental protection and conservation laws. Learn this and learn how to put it to use. Like I said, I only wish to use their platform as an educational purpose only, and that is the true benefit of our Father which art in heaven. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, so let's pass that benefit on so people can start building and establishing on that foundation and come into unity and become that union of one in His love, His providence of grace to spread His word. So have a good day, folks. I'm out. I love y'all. I'll paste all these links along with my other forum content. Be sure to smash that PayPal button, but make sure you hit all the other links too. Have a good day, and remember, I love you. Bye.